Robbo's lunch with Genevieve, or anyone can be a suicide bomber. We met at 11 at the old locale, and over the first of the day we idled, chit-chatting a little, catching up, warming again to familiar themes and scenes, familiar methods of encompassing a point. It was good to see her glow, and I told her so, to see the animation in her expression, the aim in her direction. It had been a while since I'd seen her smile so wholly, so delightedly, since I'd seen her smile. And full of the moment our glasses chimed, and we sat happy in the confidence of friends who have held each other, who have never kissed with tongues. We drank and talked. Her art was coming back, she said. She had a vision, a lucent fantasy, floodlights at the bottom of the Challenger Deep, beauty in the gesture on the bed of the abyss, a base illumination of the lowest of the low. And she laughed at her own nonsense, at its impossibility. But the vision stayed with me, the purity of the new lit, the preciousness of each instant there. And coming down on the back of the laughter as the menus and more wine arrived, and after I'd lit her cigarette with a flashy, cheesy trick, the one with the squeeze and the roll and the flick, she said that the impossible had been much on her mind, the inaccessibility of most of everything, and how, she had decided, it was missing the attraction of the out of reach, the lustre of the out of bounds that had driven God insane. I demanded objective proof and a psychologist's report, and deadpan she filled my glass and told me to believe my eyes. The last days were coming on the back of circus trucks, the 4 horsemen in clown suits swinging custard sides with a soundtrack by the Wurzels and a royal premiere. I asked her for dates, just to clear my diary, but she pouted in a very passable Monroe, blew smoke in my face, and stage whispered that she was keeping that sort of thing close to her chest. We both had salads. It seemed the right thing to do. Mine a niçoise with too much of the sea in it, hers the only Caesar fit for a king. And perhaps it was something in the mouthfuls, the vegetable taste, the xylem and the phloem and the chlorophyll. Or maybe it was coming anyway, as predetermined as more drinks or a bolt from the blue, but complacent behind our conversation, the battlements and moats of our bon mot, we were hit by the meaning of life, that old scoundrel, lurking, uncoiling under every leaf. And suddenly there was a silence, an uncertain heaviness, and I watched her watching me unblinking, thinking of another meal with someone else, and the sort of news that scars a little, and hating the hand that feeds you, and the mouth you feed. And then slowly, and with great purpose, she brought her fork up from her plate, and showed me she had learnt to feed herself again, and winked, and we were alive again. And it was some time after that, when words and ideas were tumbling from her in free-fall display, chaotic theories in polychrome parachute patterns, that she landed again upon the here and now, the state of the matter, the colour of our times, what gave this date its particular flavour. And she said, and it's almost as if, since then, and I knew when she meant, mankind's been hell-bent on forcing the moment to its crisis from all angles, blasting holes in the life map. Like Lone Star spangles, I thought, on the parchment, and nail marks like crescent moons. If you like, and there's this accumulation of expectation that soon the end will be much more than nigh, you know? And I nodded. And it fascinates me that although we see the glow of Armageddon round the bend, and the image slapped me, getting off before the end like a fuck, quick and hard against the firing line, in a race against trigger-finger ticking time, coming to the echoes of countless coups de grace. We don't get off. We hold fast. In fact, we embrace this apocalypse like a lover, ecstatically, jealously perhaps, each faction suicidally, zealously proclaiming the end its own alone. And she smiled at her rhymes, took a sip, and went on. But as she sipped, I saw myself ad-libbing in her way, interrupting her performance with the things I had to say. That I wasn't just sitting there chewing a salad, that I wasn't slyly dictaphoning past notes for a ballad, that I took each thing she said to be exactly what it was, but I couldn't quite agree with her, just wouldn't quite, because of my essential faith in something I can't quite explain. The hope in the machinery, the gluons in the plane, the scenery of memory and murals in the brain, that thing that Robin Williams said about God and cocaine, and how an archerfish defies refraction with its aim. And she bit me off with her eyes, stripped me bare before I could speak. Words caught in my mouth as in a condom. A look that told me I was drunk. I'd be lying to pretend to any faith at all, that there was no point in trying to assume the role of saviour just to save my pretty face. She'd got me under pressure, and she'd put me in my place if I got out of line like that again. She'd take me to the cleaners, and winked, as if that sort of thing could ever come between us. And grinning, put her glass back down and reached out for a light, and I passed it over silently, aware that she was right. And it's no good protesting or abstaining now. It's not a question of majority or minority. The very fact of our factionalisation is a form of unity. Union in the hunger for oblivion. The parts devouring the whole. Autophagia, if that's a word. I don't know. Nor do I. It doesn't matter. What matters is this, spreading her arms around the restaurant. This normality, this appalling ability to ignore. The ignorance in our acts, in our routines. It's one thing turning a blind eye to the starving masses or the earthquake victims or some genocide somewhere in a faraway country of which you know nothing, but doesn't it puzzle you? Doesn't it disturb you how easy it is to sit here and simply forget that your own democratically affirmed right to life is being eaten away? To sit here at this table and con yourself? To successfully pretend that all is right in this best of all possible worlds? For a militant, that's an odd combination of quotations, but I know what you mean. But do you? Do you feel it? You're still sitting here, contentedly whining and dining. You don't look too perturbed. Dutch courage. Clink. Shut up, you've been sober, at times in your life. And that's why I drink. And laughing. Come on, Jen, of course I know what you mean, but you're here too, aren't you? In living colour? Watch this space. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I'll drink to that in a minute. Now, listen, young lady, this is all too bleak. I insist we brighten up a little, live a little. That's my point. And have some fun. No more cataclysms, no more politics. Confound your knavish tricks. I will have some fun. Famine? Pestilence? No, none of that. Nothing soul-plumbingly profound, nothing abysmally deep. No ontological, teleological, nor even scientological speleology here, please. Religion in general? Smiling in her eyes. Yes, in general's fine. In fact, I have a poem on religion. In fact, I will read it to you if I can remember. Who's it by? Don't you mean... Shut up. Who's it by? Does it matter? Is it yours? No. Then it doesn't matter. Go on, if you must. I must and will. It's called Heaven and Hell. Very cheery. Shut up. It goes like this. In heaven there's a bottle, and it's full of fine malt whisky that's as golden and as fresh as the first morning, and as pure. And in heaven there's a lady who's as purdy as she's frisky, and she'll kiss you while she's drinking. Yes, she'll kiss you while she's drinking. Yes, she'll kiss you while you're drinking. And that's heaven evermore. Well, in hell there is a bottle that was full of fine malt whisky, and a lady even tastier spread naked on the floor, but the bottle's got a hole in, and the lady, though she's frisky as can be, she hasn't got one. Oh, you see, she hasn't got one. No, the lady hasn't got one, and that's hell forevermore. Good, eh? I don't know which appalls me more, your scansion or your misogyny. I told you it's not mine. Or your cowardice. You idiot, you remind me of Dalton. Which reminds me, did you hear? And so we moved on. But that night, brushing my teeth, holding my head, I stared that self-same coward in the eye, unsteady, foamy jowled, and asked him why he had not borne that argument, had fled the field. For fear, the coward said, for fear of death and having yet to die. The earth is such an awful place to lie, I'd rather be tucked up in bed instead. And then his gaze dropped, and I turned away and wiped my hand across my mouth, and laughed a spineless laugh that tasted of decay, and lay down. But I couldn't sleep a wink for shivering. There must have been a draught. I'm getting double glazing soon, I think. She cleaned her plate, an old-school lesson she had hung onto, or onto which she had hung. Or maybe she was hungry, who knew? The booze was telling by now, and I demanded more, and dessert was too sweet for her at that juncture. Garçon. Ha ha! And he acknowledged her with a flourish, with a silver servant's polish, and took away our dishes and our cutlery. And she marvelled at his buttocks with a TV sleazy stare and a half-wry grin, put her thumbs in the air, and holding them there, her attention drifting to them from his vanished derriere, she made some hazy, crazy link between arboreal ancestry and Will Young's evergreen, between opposability and playability, and drained her glass and looked about, forgot what she was on about. And I couldn't help her out. I didn't know. I was laughing like my cups had run over. I didn't know a thing. And the bum and the bill and more drinks came back together, I believe. And I didn't drink that much. But I signed it anyway. Yes, I insisted, while she made small talk with a glinting edge with the other guy. and I smirked indeterminately, indefensibly jealous as I guzzled Johnny Walker, and, accepting with a champion's grace the poor pun in the irony, I waited. And she read the whole scene in me when she turned back to me. Didn't say anything, just stared it back at me. And helping her into her coat, our time had almost passed, and dawdling through the minutes we came to our goodbyes, our paths diverging from a point on the pavement outside. And she took me by the arms and shook me, wholeheartedly, light-heartedly, and told me she mistook me for a man, and I attempted an eastward sneer, told her, "Frankly, punk, I don't give a damn, and to come here and hug me farewell, my lovely, if you could." And she could, and she would, and she did, and we squeezed the price from the time between us. And stepping back, she lifted her hand up to my face and told me not to let things fall apart. And pondering the rationale of my responsibility in that eventuality, I kissed her hand and bowed and vowed to hold it all together for the glory of Her Majesty. And with that we stepped back and I let her go. And we said we'd call to say hello, how's it going, how's it been, and did you know, and all that jazz. Or we could check out a show, maybe, or do lunch. And we laughed, and she turned away and started walking. And just like that, she was gone, like in a movie, with the wind, you see. And that left me, good old me, the usual suspect, searching for my lighter, daylit wrecked, and a reachable location, and trying to want to reject the entirely nonsensical notion, the impossibly lustrous temptation to pursue her, and imagining cupping my hands and shouting, and a flash and smoke, and the realization that it was too late, really, to do anything like that. So that was it, last Thursday. That was the last time I saw her. Why? Why'd you ask?